Government. So someone actually asked me to teach this particular topic, and that is why I will be teaching the topic. So today you'll be learning about the government and structure of the government. We'll also be looking at the types of government. So I am going to teach you what government is, the structure of government, and the types of government. So it's going to be a very short, video, just to summarize what government means and everything that you need to know about government. And if you are not following me, or let me use this word, let me use the YouTube word. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube page, this is the best time to subscribe to my YouTube page. You can also check out for other videos on the page that I've made specially for you, and do well to share with your friends. So let's get right into it. What is government? So government is the system or group of people that has the authority to make rules. So when you're talking about government, you're talking about a group of people that they have been given the authority. This group of people, they have the authority to make rules, to enforce rules, and also to manage the affairs of a state. So when you hear the word government, a lot of students run away from government like, I don't like that subject, but it's actually very simple. If you can relate it with your environment, with your society, you'll be able to understand it properly well. So you already know that when you're talking about government in Nigeria, we are talking about the presidents, the ministers, your governor in your state, the local government, and all of that. So just know that government is a group of people that has the authority to make rules, enforce them, and manage the affairs of a country, state, or community. So let's quickly go to the structure of government. So when you're talking about structure, how is the government structure, right? You can also call this like the main arms of government. Okay, so we have three branches or three arms of government. I believe you would have heard of legislative arm, executive arm, and the judiciary arm. So legislative arm, we refer to them as the lawmakers, right? This branch makes the law that govern the country. Okay. When you're talking about the legislative arm, you're talking about the Senate. For example, in Nigeria, that's like the National Assembly. So you're talking about the Senate, you're talking about the House of Representatives. And when you take it to the state level, you're talking about the State House of Assembly. Okay, so what do? They make laws that govern the country. At the national level, it is often called the Parliament, National Assembly, or Congress. Okay, so that's the legislative arm of government, and then we have the executive arm. So if we say that the legislative arm, what they do is they are the lawmakers. Executive arm, they implement the law, so we call them the implementers. So executive arm, the branch is responsible for carrying out laws, and running the government. So we have the president in a presidential system of government, and we have the president. That's President Tinubu, for example. So that's the executive arm. Then when we take to the state level, you have your governor, you have your ministers, you have the commissioners, right? So they implement the law. They carry out the laws. They ensure that these laws are properly implemented for the smooth running of the country. So they ensure that these laws, they are what's it called now? They make sure that these laws are being carried out properly. And we have the judicial arm. This judicial arm, they are the interpreters, and judges of the law. So this arm, I mean, when you hear judicial, you're thinking of court, right? So that's the judiciary. So what they do is that this arm interprets the laws and they settle disputes. Okay, so this arm ensures justice is done and that no one is above the law. So this arm is made up of the courts, and judges. And in Nigeria, the highest court is the Supreme Court. So why do we have three arms? The reason is that they need to create a system of checks and balances. What does it mean? So no branch should be too powerful. So if the president is saying that, oh, I want this law in Nigeria, the legislative arm can deliberate on it and say, no, this one cannot work. At the same time, you see people sue government and they take them to court. You understand? So no branch should be too powerful. That's the essence of having three arms, so that they can create a system of word of checks and balances. Then each one checks the other, so that power is not what is not abused. So let's look at the types of governments, right? We have different types of governments. Okay, I mean, there are different ways a country can be ruled. Okay, so we have democracy. This is government by the people. And what does that mean? People vote to choose their leaders. Everyone has the right to take part, in election. There's freedom of speech, there is fair elections, and rule of law are like key features. So examples of countries that, practice democracy, we have Nigeria, we have USA, we have United Kingdom as well. Then another type of government is monarchy. So where we have government by a king or queen. But in this case, there are times that it might be an absolute monarchy or a constitutional monarchy. What does that mean? So a royal family is in charge. That's what monarchy means. But when it's an absolute monarchy, what it means is that the king has full control of everything, the rules and all of that. For example, in Saudi Arabia, right? Then there's constitutional monarchy, whereby the king is just a symbol. The king is just there, but they have elected officials. For example, in the UK, you'd have heard of them saying that there's election in the UK. So they have elected officials, that are in charge of the administrative, happenings in the UK. So another type of government that we have military government ruled by soldiers. Most times they take power by force. Okay, and so in this kind of system of government, there's no election. The military leaders make all the decisions, and then Nigeria had military rule in the past. I believe you know that. We also have oligarchy. That's another, system of government where we have a few people ruling. Okay, like a small group controls everything. This group may be rich, it may be powerful, or influential. Then we have theocracy. What does that mean? Like government by religious leaders. So in this case, we have religious laws being used to govern the people. For example, you'd have heard of Iran, where they have Islamic law. So that's another type of government. And we also have dictatorship. Yeah, dictatorship is when the people are being ruled by one person with total power. Like nobody can question him. You get, like, for example, in North Korea, Kim Jong-un. Yeah. So in this kind of system of government, one leader rules with full control, no elections, or there's even no elections, or not, or even fake elections. You get, and then we have people have little or no freedom in that particular type of government. Okay. So before I wrap up, let me just talk about the executive arm. I mean, the branches again. So, when I mentioned the executive arm, we can call them like they are like the doers. Okay, what do? They run the country day to day. I mean, they carry out the laws, the laws that are being made by the legislature, and then they make decisions on behalf of the people. So when we are talking about the key officers in the executive, we are talking about president, like I mentioned earlier, the vice president, the ministers, then talking about governor, deputy governor, and all of that. And also, when we're talking about judiciary, the interpreters and judges. So they interpret laws, judge cases, they punish lawbreakers, and protect citizens' rights. So they just ensure fairness, and justice. So we have the magistrate courts that handles minor and civil criminal cases. We also have high courts that handles major criminal and civil cases, and we have the Court of Appeal that handles appeals from high courts. And then we have Supreme Court, that the highest court in Nigeria, the Supreme Court gives the final judgment. Okay, so finally, with the type of government and the structure of government, I want to be sure I've covered everything that I have plans to. So I wanted to give an analogy for easier understanding. So let's say you are in a school, then you have the legislative arm, they make rules. That's like the school setting laws, that these are the laws that students should follow. And we have the executive that enforces the rules. So that's like your principal enforcing discipline. Like these are the rules that have been laid down, and everybody must follow it. And then we have the judiciary. What do they do? This is like your disciplinary panel in school. It's the school board that they solve disputes. Judge. When you commit on and say you are facing the disciplinary committee, you know what I mean. So these are like the judges when rules, are broken. Okay. So I think that will be all for the structure and type of government. I wish you well in your exams. And if you have any question, you know that you can you know send your questions. You can comment below and I will definitely answer your question. And if you are not following my page yet, if you are not subscribed yet, please, this is the best time to subscribe and please share with your friends. See you in my next video. Bye.